Welcome back to A People's Guide to Publishing. I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing and Distribution. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 25 years.
I'm Ellie Blue. I'm the editorial and marketing director here at Microcosm. We are an independent mid-list publisher based in Portland, Oregon. We have 14 employees, over 650 titles in print with 20 to 40 new books per year, and we distribute thousands of titles from other publishers.
We started this podcast so that we can share what we've learned with newer publishers so that you can learn from our mistakes.
Or maybe you just want to understand the publishing industry.
This week, we will answer yet another reader question.
Yay, readers.
Which is, where is the publishing industry going in the next 5 years? Whew.
Zoom out, everybody.
A doozy.
Get ready for the ride. I assume that you have some thoughts about this because I have no idea.
You have no idea? Oh, come on, you have opinions.
I do, but they're not informed.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I suppose the reason they asked us is for informed opinions. Got it.
So
they don't just want more conjecture and
I can
space books. Goodbye, audiobooks. Hello, space books. They'll live around you. That'll be how you read them.
It's projected on the inside of your spacesuit helmet.
Do you remember that Saturday Night Live skit about Kindles? And it would be like, my kid is reading so much more now that they got the Kindle. And the kid is just like watching the movie of the book on the Kindle. And that's the entire joke. And he like watches, 10 movies a day. The parents are thrilled.
So do you think that technology is going to change in the next 5 years, and that's...
Technology will very much change, but, I mean, if there's one... Probably my most controversial take has always been that, like, publishing has been rather impermeable. Like, it just, like... it's just not malleable to technology in the way that it should have been by all mathematical accounts. Like we saw, so many disruptive companies and upstarts and technologies and, ebooks were invented in the 80s and, they were, as soon as like we created the screen that like wasn't painful with the refresh rate, so it like interrupted your brain and your eyes, it was supposed to destroy all paper books.
But it didn't.
At all. It like barely negatively impacted publishing.
It's now like streaming audio is like taking over, but it's more taking over ebooks than it's taking over from print books.
And it's just creating a new growing market rather than eating into an existing market.
We are starting to see sort of the new, technological trend of people pirating our books by reading them aloud on their podcasts and YouTube channels.
Yeah.
But that's not like a new technology. That's just kind of like, another place to do a copyright takedown.
Yeah. So... you have that side of things. So the two ways the publishing is going to change the most is the cost of paper, the cost of freight. And then like what we saw this past year with like the Suez Canal blockage and, with just like when you have major supply chain interruptions, I wrote in the People's Guide to Publishing book that the one kind of business integration that doesn't make sense is for a publisher to own their own printer. And then, I suppose it took 2021 to prove me wrong.
You think that makes sense now?
Oh, very much it would this year, yeah.
So you think, do you see that trend coming in the next 5 years, that more publishers will take printing in-house?
Yeah, if you followed this, I did an interview for one of the like printing industry technological magazines that do reporting on that, and it was when Condé Nast bought all of their primary printers, for the magazine company Condé Nast, and then how this was like they were trying to frame it as like, oh, this is controversial, other publishers are upset. And you're like, no, other publishers, well, like, A, there aren't really other magazine publishers at all. And B, book publishers use different printers, so that isn't really such a thing.
Right.
But I could very much see it as, Simon Schuster, Penguin Random House et al.
Is that what we're going to do, or are we going to buy a printer?
It's doesn't seem likely in the very near future, but 5 years is 5 years.
A lot can change even in 1 year, as we've learned.
And I mean, it's just major capital expenditure, and it's
Right.
just it's like a separate industry, And this was one of the weird disruptions of the past year, where I got an email yesterday that one of our printers is full for the next 5 months. Like, they have no availability to print, schedule or take more work, which is pretty wild.
So what are the impacts that this is going to have on, like, publishers, all of these, like, the printer scarcity, as well as costs going up and shipping times going up?
Well, it'll, I mean, if you remember when, you're able to recall when, like, hardcover books were $20, and that seemed like a controversially high price, over $18, and now they're $30 or $40, and that's sort of
that'll keep going up, but people are willing to pay that too,
oh, absolutely. And that's one difference, is like consumers are willing to pay more and understand that it's not greed or whatever, it's like, and that's sort of the popular idea with textbooks, is that, like, they have to raise the price because they're greedy, and then people bootleg them because they're too expensive, and then the prices go up more because so many people are bootlegging them, and everybody loses in the end.
Right.
But so with trade books, like books that are developed to be sold in a bookstore, it's really different. Where consumers are really happy to be like, okay, this is $40, happy to spend $40.
Mm-hmm.
And younger people are leaning into that more. I found a post I made years ago that was predicting that, and then it came true. And so you'll see that, but that is ultimately a good thing, because it just seems like it was the response of the race to the bottom in terms of pricing to,
right.
And then the other major difference nowadays is everything is discounted 30 to 40% when it's new, which that did not used to be that way. And some publishers, we used to sell books from other publishers 25% off on our website, and publishers would get upset about that, and I didn't really understand, but they saw it as like people would buy it from us instead of from them. And now I see it a bit more. Like, I understand the issue, but I also see it as like our fans were the one coming to us for that. It wasn't like people were Googling the book back then like they would nowadays and finding it at the lowest price. It was more about giving where we could give, and like giving the lowest price we could. But that's a short end road as well. But so I mean, other than that, I would say, like, you're definitely gonna eventually hit a point where audio streams are 40 to 50% of the market, in terms of units, but
those don't actually pay you anything.
Yeah.
To speak of, less than a penny each.
Yeah, there's that. And then, the other big thing is the consolidations are going to continue massively, and we'll see that, and we'll feel that hard.
We'll get down to the big two, or even the big one.
Well, it won't just be in the major houses, the big one by the time this episode comes out, or anything like that. It'll be more like everybody will be consolidating.
Oh, interesting. Like, smaller publishers will be buying each other, or getting snapped up by medium-sized publishers.
Yeah, exactly. And that happens a lot as it is, but normally in the past that's happened in the way where, like, somebody's hitting retirement, and so they sell to a financial benefactor, or they just are done with it, so they find somebody that's interested, and they're not much caring who carries on their legacy, because they just want out.
So what should publishers do to prepare for these changes that you predict in the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, and I think the big thing is not to be a stick in the mud, to really just
be a stick on dry land.
To not do things the way you've done them, and then justify that by saying, oh, we've always done things this way. Why would we change? And I feel like that is just like, has been such the death of the publishing industry, and so much of the reason that Amazon was able to grab such a market share, out of nowhere, this unheard of company.
And what are some ways that, like, publishers can think about changing that maybe they haven't considered before to meet these specific demands?
I'd say create predictive estimates, P&L statements, profit and loss. We have an episode about that you should check out, and we have sample ones, sheets you can download. You should do those when you're considering acquiring and developing a title, and then you should do them again after the title has been out for a year, so you can really see how it is actually performing, and then use the discrepancy between those two to say, what am I doing wrong? What should I be doing differently? How can I respond to this information? And if you do that for every title, you can really see where you're getting the most out of it and like where you're being dragged down to the ground.
Good advice. All right. Well, good luck in the next 5 years. We'll check in with you regularly.
Yeah. And let's just hope that...
Who knows what else might change.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
On Twitter at Microcosm,
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
on Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.